Hello, everyone. Bloodhunt recently fully released. It was in early access and or beta for quite a while, but it fully released now, so people can enjoy it to the full extent. I wanted to do a recording to share some information, tips or otherwise, as I feel a lot of people are making mistakes. I'll start with what is Bloodhunt. Bloodhunt's going to be different than the other games that you'll find associated with Vampire the Masquerade. I think the two people are most familiar with are going to be Redemption, and I think the other one's Bloodlines. Although Bloodlines will definitely be more common than Redemption, which makes me very, very sad. I thought Redemption was the best of the RPGs for that, and I see people agree with me because it is in the top 50 best games of our time list still to this day. But that's another rant for another day. But point is, it's a battle royale. It's not an RPG like the other ones that you'll find in the VTM titles. It is a third-person battle royale, meaning that it's going to be kind of like Smite in that the camera is behind you. The difference is in elevation. Smite's kind of more over the shoulder, but in this it's kind of more level or behind the shoulder. It is free to play. If you're a PC player, you would just go to Steam and download it. If you're on console, that's a completely different stepping process, and unfortunately, I'm not a console, so I'm not really sure what the stepping process is for that, but at least I know for PC, because that's where I am. As far as hardware requirements go, it's not too harsh on the hardware requirements, so you should be able to play this on most PCs. Well, I should say most gaming PCs, because I know a lot of people are waiting for the video cards to return to normal price. So a lot of gaming PCs now should be able to play, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, with that said, let me go ahead and talk about some basics here. Okay. Bloodhunt is going to be different than the other battle royales because it's got some verticality to it. There are rooftops for you to climb, or other buildings, I should say. Due to that and the third person, you want to stay on the rooftops or tops of buildings as much as possible. The more you can do that, the better visibility you have, and it gives you a better angle on your enemies. There will be situations where you will have to leave your height advantage behind, but try to avoid that situation as much as possible. Keep your advantages for as long as you can. That's the first golden rule, I would say, with this game. I see a lot of people coming in here trying to treat it like Apex, and it is not like Apex. Just don't. I'm telling you right now, you will have better survivability and an overall better game experience if you actually try to play this game differently than the other battle royales. So that brings me into the next thing to kind of talk about, and that's the visibility. There's a very good reason I'm saying to keep your height advantage as much as possible, and it's because of that third person element that I was mentioning. Because it's third person, people have a better visibility than other battle royales like Apex. Apex is first person, so generally speaking, people have maybe at best 90-degree vision. But because this is third person, it's going to be more like 180 degrees. That's why I say to keep your height advantage as much as possible, because the last thing you want to do is give up your advantages or push into an enemy that's already aware of you. So yes, please do not be like those people that just come in and be like, oh, I gotta treat it like, X Battle Royale. That's just not how this works. Not in the slightest. That brings me into the third golden rule, I guess you can say, and that is don't push too much. Generally speaking, pushing really, really hard puts you at a disadvantage, because it could put you right in the middle of every team or person, or somebody could get you in transit. Because, again, this is a verticality game, so the second you're trying to move to another rooftop or something, is the second that somebody could potentially see you and try to take you out before you can reach that rooftop. So don't try to move too much. Now, obviously, you're going to have to because of the circle and things like that, but whenever that happens, just make sure to move enough so that you're in the next circle and then leave it at that. But don't try to push any further than that, because usually that'll put you at a disadvantage. It's more or less what I'm trying to tell you. With the golden rules out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the clans, if you will. When you do play Bloodhunt, you have a selection of archetypes, as they're called, to play. All but Ventru clan has 2 archetypes for you to play from. Nosferatu has 2 archetypes, Bruja has 2, Toreador has 2, so on and so forth. Each archetype has 2 skills and then a passive. The passive is usually what's going to be different most of the time. Say, for example, like with the Clan Bruja, the Brute has a passive healing, regen, and the other Bruja, which I think is Vandal, has a damage reduction when in close quarters. So that's kind of where things change between archetypes. But generally speaking, each archetype will have 2 skills plus a passive. So now that we understand the whole archetype and clan system, I'll talk about the blood resonance part now. Blood resonance is the thing you'll see in the bottom left corner of your screen. They'll have different colors and symbols associated with them. The furthest one on the right, which is orange, is choleric, which is plus melee damage. The one to the left of it, which is pink, is going to be sanguine, which is health regeneration. And then the ones to the left of that, it's going to relate to the skills. Depending which archetype you're playing, it will either affect the left or right skill. So that's kind of the blood resonance overview. Now, as far as it's concerned, you only get 3 to start with, 3 points in total. So that means you can only invest 3 at max into any one of them at the very start. And you do that by feeding on mortals with the associated color. I'll get into Sanguine in a minute, but you can get more max points by feeding on the entity, which is going to be that kind of red cross looking thing on the map, or by diablerizing enemy players. Diablerization is like execution, more or less. So that's how you get more blood resonance points. But you start with 3, and that's how you have to allocate things. So seeing as we've kind of gone over that, let me just real quickly get into Sanguine. This is another mistake that I think people are making. They go straight to either choleric or one of the skill at the very start. They try to max that out and then go from there. And I think this is a really big mistake because, yes, Sanguine by itself is not going to heal you to max health all the time. But when it's combined with other things, then you'll start to notice how helpful that 4 health regen is. So if you're playing Brute, for example, the Clan Bruja, one on the far left, because its passive says that it can regenerate its health up to half when not taking damage, you can combine Sanguine with that to kind of like super heal real quickly in a pinch. If you're playing Muse, you can heal yourself and allies, so you could definitely heal really quickly between the skill and Sanguine. But if you're not playing one of those 2, then you can combine the blood syringes with that to get really fast regen going. That's another great thing about Sanguine, and I think that people sleep on, is you have to look at it more than a numbers thing. You have to think about it as a combinations thing. The more it can be combined with whatever combination you have available to you, the less downtime you have. The less downtime you have means less of a sticky situation that you have to be in. It's not like you'll get more blood resonance points later on through diablerization or by killing entity. So to me, I think the best way to handle the very start is to get max points into Sanguine, which will put you at 4 health regen. And then as you get more blood resonance points, then go ahead and spend into the other stuff. that said, let me go ahead and now talk about weapons. Like any battle royale, there's different floor loot, and of course, as they go up in rarity, they gain either magazine capacity, damage, or something. It all depends on which weapon it is, and so on and so forth. So out of the list of weapons that you have the one-handed dual crossbows, you have the two-handed crossbow, you have silenced SMG, you have the Tommy gun, so those are two SMGs. You have the toggler, which is kind of a odd one. It's able to switch between single fire and auto, hence the name. When it's in single fire mode, it's very, very, very accurate. It can almost be treated like a marksman rifle. Then you have just the normal assault rifle. You have the burst fire rifle, which comes from looting entity. You have minigun, which is also another looted entity weapon. You have the marksman rifle, which is your first precision weapon, and then you have the sniper rifle, which is your other precision weapon. For melee weapons, you have fire axe, spiked bat, katana, scourge blades. Did I miss any? I don't think I did. Katana has a special ability which allows you to deflect bullets. Scourge blade has, for its special ability, a dash type of thing. The other melee weapons don't have special abilities. They're just straight up hack and slash. So with that all listed, let's talk about the best weapons. In my opinion, the best weapon is going to be, at least on the SMG side, the Tommy gun. The reason for that is the Tommy gun has a higher magazine capacity than the silenced SMG. Even all the way up to the very high tiers, it will definitely outshine the silenced SMG for that. I think that the Tommy gun is better overall for that reason, and also because I don't really see the point in silenced weapons with this game. It's people have a lot of visibility anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So yeah, that's kind of my logic with that whole thing. For ranged weapons, I would say Toggler is better than Marksman. Yes, there is a range difference between the Marksman and the Toggler, but the Toggler uses a more common ammunition type, and the Toggler is really close to the Marksman rifle in damage. It's like 20 a bullet on the chest, whereas Marksman's 30 damage per hit on the chest. Given that the Toggler has a higher rate of fire, it can make up for that 10 damage difference pretty quickly. It has better recoil control overall, so I definitely would say if you're going to be using kind of a marksman rifle, use the Toggler over the marksman rifle. If you're doing extremely long-range shots, though, definitely use the sniper rifle. The sniper rifle is the only gun in the game, as far as I can tell, that doesn't have a damage drop-off. I did forget the pistols, didn't I? I forgot to list those, yeah. I would say dual pistols is fine, assuming that you have an itchy trigger finger and are pretty good at aiming. It's not as forgiving as the Tommy gun if you miss, but assuming that you can hit with dual pistols, it can do a lot of damage. I wouldn't touch the revolver just because it has a lot of recoil and a very slow rate of fire. It's kind of like the Wingman from Apex. But yeah, I wouldn't touch the revolver. It's too slow. It doesn't have as high of capacity as the dual pistols. So that's kind of my take on it. I guess there were shotguns too, and I forgot to list those. Yeah, don't bother with shotguns either. They're really too short ranged. But if you are going to bother with them, I would say go ahead and do the pump shotgun, not the double barrel, because the pump at least has a tubular magazine, and it can do quite a bit of damage on its own. But the reason I would say don't do the shotgun is because melee weapons at that point, in my opinion, would be a much more effective solution, but it's up to you. That would be kind of my list of weapons to look for. In short, it's going to be Tommy gun, Toggler, sniper rifle, or assault rifle. Those are the ones that I would personally look for. For melee weapons, it really doesn't matter. It's just based on playstyle. They're all going to do a lot of damage. Okay, anyways, that's all of that. Let's see, the next thing I want to talk about is the best archetypes. I think that the best archetypes for this game are going to be the Brute because of the passive regeneration, but also because of the leaping ability. The leap ability can launch you really, really far, keeping your height advantage. So yeah, I would definitely say that the Brute is pretty good for that reason. After the Brute, my next recommendation for archetypes would be the Muse. Muse is obviously the healer. You can heal yourself or allies, so that's really a no-brainer. Its dash is not going to be as long as, or I guess I should say the dash is not going to make you travel as far as the Brute's leap in terms of going from rooftop to rooftop, but it's still pretty good. And on top of that, you do have the ability to heal. So yeah. The other one, the Siren, I guess it's fine. But in this game, you can't really rely on you being in close quarters. That's kind of why I skip over Vandal, because both Vandal and Siren are really reliant on you being close quarters, and I really don't think that that's something to depend on, I guess you can say. You have to expect that each match is going to be different, and you have to switch tactics accordingly. Therefore, anything that's close quarters is not going to be a great idea. But, yeah, I guess if you wanted to play that, I think that the Siren would be a better bet than Vandal. That said, moving on, they did recently add the Enforcer, which is the first clan Ventry. Now, that one's kind of an odd archetype. It doesn't have a very far dash, and it has this immunity thing as its other skill. The immunity only works if you're not taking any offensive action, so attacking or things like that. So it's really weird in that fact. Now, it can be used as either an advancing or retreating tool. So if you're retreating and you don't want the enemy to kill you, you can turn it on. But if you're advancing into the enemy, then yeah, you can turn it on for that too. But the problem is you have to really plan it ahead of time due to the fact that you can't take offensive action while it's on. And if you're really getting shot at, you don't want to turn that off. You want to make sure you use it to the very last second. So I would say while Enforcer can be good, it's going to be more of an advanced archetype because of the planning involved. So yeah, that would be the archetypes that I would personally recommend for anyone playing. That's going to be Brute, Muse, or Enforcer. The reason I'm skipping over a lot of the other ones, because like I said, it's either to deal with close quarters or there's another factor associated with it. In the case of the clan Nosferatu, the reason I'm skipping over that is because they don't really have anything that's beneficial. Yes, they have a stealth, but I mean, any experienced player with a third person can see through that stealth. Because all you have to do is you have to angle the camera in such a way that the lighting sheds the stealth. And once people start to get more familiar with how to do that, then that stealth is no longer going to become valuable. I learned to do it within the first, I would say, week or two of the beta. I learned to angle my camera in such a way that the lighting would allow me to see the stealth. So yeah, I don't see that as being a good clan overall. Sure, some people can make it work, but I just don't think it's worth it, because let's just say even if you do manage to find a couple of bots that don't see your stealth, I mean, just look at all the other skills that are associated with it and the passives too. They're just not as valuable as having a Muse, Enforcer, or even a Brute. They just have far more valuable skills and far more valuable passives. So that's kind of my take on the best archetypes. It's going to be Enforcer, Muse, and Brute. So, yeah, that's really all I can say on this game. I'm hoping that my explanations and listings helps you to be a better player. As always, you're welcome to comments in the comment section if you want to add something to it, or if you want to ask a question. Just please be respectful. I'm getting really tired of finding disrespectful comments. Look, I don't mind talking to people, but please just remember I'm a person at the end of the day. If you respect me, I respect you. That's how this works around here. But anyways, thanks for listening.